Well, let's talk about it a minute about the role of apprenticeship and mentors. Did you have a mentor in your profession?
Yes, not in a hugely active sense, but in a slightly more passive sense. There's definitely a tradition in filmmaking, and I would say probably all the arts, where people feel that, you know, when you become successful, it's a team effort. You know, it's your family, it's your friends, it's fellow peers, it's professionals, it's who gave you that first break, it's who believed in you, it's who loaned you some money to get from this period of time to that period of time because you weren't making any money. Nobody does it on their own, you know, at least not in my experience. And there's this whole concept of paying something forward, you know. When Chris Sod, I know Chris Sod, interestingly enough, because his uncle is a recording engineer in Houston. And back in the 80s, I played in bands. And so I knew his uncle from this recording studio. His uncle came out and recorded in L.A. a couple years ago. And he said, you know, my sister's son has some time off from school and he wants to come to L.A. So I said, you know what, have him come stay with me for free. They offered to pay, and I said, I'm not going to take your money. You know, I have a room, you're a student, come take it. Put that money towards something you need to put it towards. And it's one of those things where you could say it's an obligation, you could say it's something that you really should do, but to me it's a privilege. You know, it's a privilege to make that kind of a difference to someone, knowing how much of a difference those types of gestures made to me.
Right.
And I don't forget those people, and I remember them. And when somebody, you know, again, when Chris came and he says, you know, I want to pay you for the room, I said, here's how you're going to pay me for the room. When you're in a position to return this favor to some young person, you know, after you've established yourself in your career, that's when you pay me back.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
You still got that extra bed?
I do. Hey.
I get you a stream of visitors.
Well, I tell you, no, I'll tell you what, I keep my figurative door open. If any of you guys want to email me, you know, feel free. You can look me up on the internet. But I don't have a hesitation putting those invitations out for a couple of reasons. One is I'm always surprised at how few people take me up on it.
That's true.
I was brought in to finish off a cinematography class at Columbia College about 10 years ago. Right. And these were people who were just on fire to shoot something. And it's a long story, so I won't go into the details, but because of the way the class had been going, they were not on track to shoot before their class ended. So I revamped it, I revised the structure, I got them shooting before the class was over. But the last day of the class, I said, you know, I'm about to do a feature. If any of you people would like to intern on this feature, I'm going to put a piece of paper on this table. Give me your name, your number, your email address, and I'll call you. And out of a class of about 30, I think 12 people put their names down. I called all 12. 2 of them actually showed interest. 1 of them showed up. Now, that fellow who showed up, it was a really low-budget movie. And the attrition, you know, one of the things about working for little to no money in my business, and probably your business too, is if you sit around and you demand money, well, you're probably going to be making coffee. If you're willing to work for free, you have opportunities to show your stuff in advance, and somebody's going to give you a chance to do something that they might not otherwise do, because look, if it's about the money, they're going to pay somebody who's got the resume. So that was definitely something that I did, and it's something that I encourage people to do, is take some calculated risks. Again, you are investing in yourself. You know, there's no guarantees. If you go and you buy a stock off of NASDAQ, you may be down tomorrow. So it's the same thing. You know, take some chances. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, how the hell do you expect anybody else to invest in you? Be that taking a chance or putting money into you. You know, so develop your own brand, develop your own talent, develop your own skills. You got to be able to do that. And what this guy did is he came onto this job, and the attrition rate was so astonishing that 3 months into it, because it was actually a series of 3 movies, 3 months into it, he was the key grip, which, if you will recall, is the head of the grip crew. But that was based on him busting his tail and doing a great job, and he stayed around while all these other guys said, oh, I've got a job. And because he was the new guy, he didn't have somebody calling him for another job, so he just moved up. And I tell you, he was a key grip by the end of that 3 months. But he was sharp, and he was diligent, and he learned. And, you know, I've had other people that I've mentored, and it's a matter of, look, I can open the door for you, but once you walk through it, you got to do the dance.
Absolutely.
There's nothing I can't help you. But that's what he did, and to this day, he's working as a grip on television shows, that one fellow. So, and the other thing is when people get in touch with me, I don't just sort of freely dispense information. I'll give like assignments. I'll say, okay, you know, if you're interested in working with me, here's a good book you should read. Here's, you know, and it depends on the person what they do. But I'll give them some stuff to do. I'll give them. I played guitar way back in the day, and I taught guitar lessons. And I remember having students who every single week I'm teaching them the same thing because they didn't practice last week. Drove me out of my mind. So when I started taking on students, I gave them something tricky that I knew would frustrate them if they weren't serious. And then they just wouldn't come back, you know. And but I then conversely, I knew people wanted to start playing. So I'd give them something tricky. They had to get over that hill, but then I'd teach them a song as quickly as possible, you know, to give them something to chew on. And I think that those things are important, because if I just keep throwing up obstacles and I keep giving them scales and I keep saying, you know, do these scales and learn these chords and do this arpeggio, and, you know, they're not playing something that's, you know, that they recognize, I think it becomes frustrating. So that's the same thing I do when people contact me in the film business. You know, I give them things to challenge themselves, because that's the other thing too. I could sit there, and I've done this in the early days, talk my ears off, or talk somebody's ears off for 2 or 3 hours, blah, 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 give them all the benefit of my experience and knowledge, and then they don't do anything with it. And I realize you have to do it for yourself. Right. You have to. I could tell you about everything that's in this wonderful book. You need to go read it. Right.